All right, we got
Yes.
Genevieve Rice with us. Did I get
Hi.
that right?
Yeah, you got it.
So, Genevieve, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having
This,
me.
oh, man, my pleasure. I dig your sets. I dig your sets. And you've hosted Little Bird Comedy Night. How long have you been hosting that? So, just for listeners, that's how we met each other, was through this.
Yeah. Well, my partner in comedy, Michael Palladino, and we started this Little Bird showcase about May 2020. And we kept it going through last summer when we thought the pandemic was maybe over or getting or subsiding or whatever you want to say. And we did our last mic in July, and then we things came back. Pandemic did not end; kind of got worse. So we started up again in January, and we're gonna do it at least through February, probably longer. So because it's bummer that the pandemic is still going on, getting worse, arguably. But we have really amassed like a really nice community of comics, and it's been really great to have that opportunity to work on stuff and meet people internationally. So like yourself, and it's been wonderful.
Oh,
Yeah.
You guys are a great group. You guys have taken me in. What I love about it is there's like one guy and he just laughs at everything. You know what I mean? And you're just like, yes, that guy, he's my moral support. Like I'll say something, I'm like, because I don't look at like some people you can like it's totally different. The Zoom comedy versus live comedy. And this is what I was hoping to talk about. But on the Zoom comedy, I'm like in my kitchen, like about to go into my fridge to get a snack, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm up, right? It's just totally different. Whereas at the Zoom place, you're just hyping yourself up, and then you're in front of people. Like it's just, I don't know. Like what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, we've had people like cook meals. Like there's a comic used to come regularly that was like making dinner.
Like, that was part of his shtick.
Background. Like they didn't have the sound on, but no.
Oh, he was in the audience. Yeah.
No, they were like while they were waiting for their set with the sound off, you could see them like making dinner in the background. Yeah, I mean we've had people like perform in their cars. That's really common. We've had people perform from bathrooms.
Because that's where they get privacy.
Yeah. I mean, I think one time we had a comic perform from some kind of like breastfeeding like privacy room from the airport. So it was like, I mean, it's a great, very private. They were not breastfeeding, so I have mixed feelings about that as a mom, but
yeah, you're taking up somebody's spot for your BS comedy.
They did great. I mean, if you're gonna take the room, you don't want to bomb, but they didn't. But, yeah, it's and like yeah, my husband's a jazz professor, and so he's had to teach a lot of classes online. They're back to in person now, but for a while he had to do Zoom classes online, and like he says, yeah, students would just do whatever. Like, yeah. And I mean, they're showing up, they're trying, they're, making the best of a weird situation. And like, but it's like, sometimes it's like, yeah, could you not come to class while you're driving?
And they have to have the camera on?
I think it depends on the class. But most classes, they require you to have the camera on for most of the time.
But man, you must see some crazy stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, it's but like you really do kind of learn how to deal with it. Like internet connections, cameras, You know, microphones, pets, children, like
children.
yes. Yeah.
You have two kids?
No, I have one daughter, and
Okay.
yeah, who's trying to nap right now. So
Oh,
yeah.
keep it down.
She's across the house, and my husband's watching her right now. But
Oh, okay.
yeah.
And sorry, how old is she?
She is 2 years and 9 months.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. My daughter's 2 and 4 months.
Oh wow, really
Yeah.
close.
Yeah. Like I work as a school counselor, and it's like I always knew like kids are awesome, man. Like I love working with kids. I also enjoy working with adults, but kids, it's just like if you listen, you're gonna get a lot out of it. Like because they're kids, right? Like they see the world as a child does. Like they have wonder still and
Yeah,
curiosity, and it's infectious, right?
it really
So
is. Yeah,
yeah,
it's I mean, I haven't I really, besides being a parent, I hadn't had a ton of experience with kids. I
yeah,
actually hadn't changed I hadn't changed a diaper until Fiona was born. That's my daughter's name.
yeah,
So yeah. So it's all very new to me, but it's really exciting, like when she learns a new word, or like a new
yeah.
skill, or like a new game, or like, it's even if it's just something as simple as, oh, she's going down the slide now, or like, or even like, um oh wow, she's never seen a balloon before. Like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
What's that? What's that? That's a balloon. Balloon, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Um, have
um
you have you shown her the Brown Bear book by
mhm.
Carl?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Those
I
books are good because you're seeing how they pick up language.
I think at one point I had that memorized, because we were
Yeah,
reading it, so because we were reading it like several times a day.
yeah, yeah.
It really went through a very strong brown bears phase. Yeah. Um yeah. And yeah, that was fun. And like, I love reading. And like,
Me too.
part of I love reading to the kids, like it's, and you get into it, like as a performer, you're like, ooh, what voice can I do? Like what can I point out that'll like be extra special for you?
Right.
Like, what can I add? And like, it's, you try something different each time. It's really fun. Yeah, and she's learned quite a bit from just reading books. And we aren't a screen-free family or anything like that. We've
Oh,
watched
how can you be? How the how
I think
can you?
that
It's
I think
impossible.
some people are still trying.
Yeah, well, maybe if
I
they're a
guess
Quaker or something like that, like, you can't escape it.
I
It's
know.
ubiquitous. What
Yeah,
we have to teach children, and I'm a huge proponent of this, is like a digital diet. Like you're not gonna like everybody has to learn things at their own. Okay, so I had a neighbor, right? He's my
mhm,
best friend. Love the guy. And he was never allowed to have Coca-Cola at his house.
yeah,
But I had Coca-Cola at my house. So he'd come over and man, he'd have like 4 Cokes. But he
yes.
was like a super athlete, right? So he was always skinny. Okay. And but then he'd go home and always just milk and water. And mom was like, milk and water. I'm like, you got any like Sunny D up in this place? Or anyways,
Purple stuff.
and but then he eventually what graduated, right?
Mhm.
And he could just no one's gonna tell him he can't drink Coke and he likes it. So he had no way of managing it. Guy gained tons of weight, used to be a
Mm.
superstar athlete, got all the girls. I just kind of watched from the sidelines. And but then now he's like overweight, and it's just like he never learned how to manage it. So that's the same thing for technology. You have to introduce it, but then learn like discipline around it or something like that.
Yeah, I feel the same.
Correct
I
me if
mean,
I'm wrong. Yeah.
it's the same thing with my my sister and I never really had bedtimes when we were kids. We never, or at least like really strict bedtimes. Like a lot of my friends had bedtimes like 7 o'clock, and I think my mom kind of shot for 10:30. So, you know, like, so when we would go to like sleepovers, like we would be like, yeah, maybe we'll stay up to midnight. Maybe we'll stay up to midnight. And it's like, and then all the kids that had the 7 p.m. super early strict bedtime, they were like, let's stay up all night. And I'm like, I got stuff to do. Like, I learned. I don't. I got work in the morning. I don't know.
How is your sleep now?
I sleep pretty well, actually. I used to be, before my daughter was born, I used to be kind of an insomniac. And like I would say at least a night a week I didn't sleep, or didn't sleep very well. It's like 3-4 hours, whatever. And
was that because you didn't want to, or was that because you kind of couldn't?
Kind of couldn't. Like, I couldn't get to bed, and that happened. And then when I had my daughter, I was just exhausted enough that like never happened. And then I got extremely lucky. I have a daughter has slept through the night since about 3 months, and with very few exceptions. And although she's starting to drop her nap now, her afternoon nap, it's getting to be a bit of a struggle. But we've been really lucky with sleep, and that makes a huge difference. Like, we're just,
you guys probably like each other more.
Yeah, that's been great. But yeah, I mean, we have other challenges, but the sleep has been pretty good, actually. So I'm having the healthiest sleep of my life after I had a kid.
Isn't that crazy? Like,
yeah.
It's sort of like when I was in my 20s, it's like you got all the freedom in the world, right? But you don't. It's like a dog chasing after a car, like the Joker. I love that character. He's like, I'm like a dog chasing after a car. If I ever caught it, I wouldn't know what to do. And it's like that in your 20s. You're just like, I have no idea. Then you have a kid, and you're like, you can get so much done in a day. So many activities in. I think I lost you. The screen went dead.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there it is. Oh, there it is. Did you hear me, or did I go out?
I heard you. I got circles for a little bit on the screen.
Okay.
Briefly. Yeah. But that's it. I could hear you the entire time. At least I think. I don't know.
Your face was great. You were like, I'm like, oh, she's listening. And then it just stayed there. I was like,
I fell asleep for a few seconds.
Yeah. She fell asleep with her eyes open. But yeah. No, I mean, now that like you have a kid, they go to bed. It's like, that's when I get things done. She goes to bed at 7:30. So, and I'm like, okay, I got time to do things. And then guess what? I end up just watching a show or some shit. Damn it. Tomorrow.
Yeah. You do need a little bit of, like, after they go to bed, you need a little bit of staring time. Like, just to like sit down and decompress. And it's like, all right. And then let's pick the house. Let's pick up the house. Let's write that email that involved concentration. There is a lot of planning of like, people were always like, you got to sleep when they sleep is a common thing that people say. And I'm like, well, I got to do laundry. Do you do laundry and they do laundry? Like, when do I do that? Like, I got to write jokes.
Yeah, that's a great piece of wisdom. But you have things you got to do, and you can't do them when a kid's around. Like I'm a counselor, And there's been periods when we work from home and it's like, I got to lock myself in the fucking boiler room or something so my kid can't find me. Because these are conversations that can't exactly be interrupted.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
you also work as a real estate agent or something. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Yeah. And so some of that, I mean, if I'm showing houses, that is out of the house. But if I've got to answer an email or fill out a form, or like you kind of have to be like, you sometimes you need a little bit of like you need a little bit of quiet, like, okay, I gotta double check this, make sure it's correct and stuff like that. It doesn't really lend itself to your kid watching Sesame Street in the background sometimes. But yeah, so it's a little bit of an adjustment.
That's where the technology comes in, right? Like, something's got to watch this kid. This kid's got to watch something, right? Otherwise, he's just going to be running around your house with a marker, just like, I can't.
Oh yeah, my daughter. We just got a 64 set of skinny markers that are. My daughter's obsessed, and she's learning her colors from these markers, and that's pretty great. So there's something there. But it's and they're washable markers, but that's a relative term, of course. So
somebody's got to wash it off.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It doesn't. They're not self-cleaning now. So
how has parenting affected your comedy? Like, how would you describe your comedy before and then after having a child?
I mean, I'd say largely the same. I have more jokes about her. I didn't have any jokes about random kids in my act before. But I've been, I mean, she's 2, almost 3. So for the most part, it's affected when I can do comedy because I do watch her quite a bit. I am, I am her caretaker most of the time. So I do have to, unfortunately, turn down a lot of gigs that won't work out for whatever reason. Because I mean, sometimes, if I have to get a babysitter, it's like, that's $20 an hour. So I have to factor that in, all right, is this worth it? Is this, yeah. So for a gig. And so there's that. But for the most part, it is pretty much the same. I mean, I you get used to having to write stuff very quickly. And when you can, you don't waste a lot of free time at all. So
productive.
Yeah.
How do you write your jokes down? Like, I try to keep, it's like I live in a trap house. I have little books everywhere and I just write shit down. My wife said, what are you doing? I'm like, I just had an idea.
I can't physically write stuff down anymore. I feel like my handwriting has gotten so bad that I just can't. I don't know why. I start out nice and neat, and then it just evolves into cursive that I can't read anymore. And so I've had to write everything on. I tend to write bullet points on the Notes app. That tends to be the way that I do it anymore. I find if I write it out word for word, I get too nervous about memorizing it. I get too tempted to memorize it word for word. And I feel like that's a little bit unnatural because I feel like part of it has to be okay, these are the things you want to hit. You want to just try it out. you want to try out the idea, and that's how you get your wording. So, but yeah, it's, I mean, there's things that have come to me like in the moment, like on stage, and I've incorporated those, and then kind of thought of like alt lines later. But for the most part, it has to be like that two-pronged approach.
Well, and the thing is when you go up there, like, I'm still very new. You've been a comic, is it 8 years?
About 15.
So. 15, sorry. Somewhere, maybe I was looking at the Little Bird website, and I saw a number of 6 or 7 years. Anyways, that's me trying to BS my way around. Anyways, I'm new to it. So you have your idea, and then you go up there, and it's the adrenaline boost, and you're like, oh, this is way too complicated, this joke that I made. And then you just kind of fumble through it. Is that sort of like, how do you, because you want it to be tight, right? How long would you say it takes to get like a tight joke now?
It really depends on the joke. Sometimes, I mean, there's stuff that I have said that has not really worked, and then I've kind of had to come back to it, and like sometimes it takes it, it can take like, I don't know, 5-10 times of doing it really before it really works out. Or but I found that the best way to work out new stuff is to try stuff that that works, and like sandwich it in. I'm a big fan of doing that. Even at mics, some people have the philosophy that you want to try all new stuff at mics. I think it's fine to try out 1 or 2 new things, and like, and see like, okay, because I'm thinking about this as, how is this going to fit into a set? What does this pair well with? Does it work at the beginning of a set? Best, is it something that I have to lead into? Like, where does it work energy wise? So that makes a big difference to me too. And there's some things that I've tried at the beginning that didn't work, and they worked better when you have it towards the middle or towards the end.
Yeah.
So, and it really depends on the crowd too. So, and there's also jokes that work once and never work again. Yeah. That happens a lot. So, to everybody. And it just depends on the shelf. You have to determine the shelf life for the jokes. And sometimes things just burn out.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, how would you describe your comedy? Because me, I'm really like I said, I love philosophy, but I'm like, I don't like being preachy. So I kind of want to make jokes at it that people are like, that's kind of a weird way of doing things or whatever. How would you describe your comedy?
I'd say I'm pretty silly. I'm very silly. I mean, I do like to joke around about like politics and some like pretty serious stuff, but I always like to find like a goofy element to it. So that's just kind of how I like to process things, is just find the goofiest way to think about things. And that's how I'd prefer to get hard news. So, and like,
Doctor comes in shaking his head. You're not going to believe this, but there's a chicken in your ass. What? No, you have cancer. Fuck.
That would be a good way to find out you have cancer.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Okay, so political, here we go. But Biden, he's that whole cancer thing, he did, that big announcement he had today. Did you hear about that?
I don't know if I did, actually.
Moon. Oh man, you're asking me to give news. Shoot.
Okay. All right. What's going on?
It had some crazy name, but the goal is by 2048 to half the number of cancer deaths.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm like, hey, you know what? That's something I can get behind. And I believe in that. I don't know, man. I believe in the future. I do. As somebody who works with children, you have to believe in the future. If you don't, Jesus, stop working with children. What are you doing? Your children, they're the future, right?
Yeah, I'm still like, I mean, climate change, it's looming, and of course, like, I mean, cancer is still it's one of the number one killers. I mean, it's up there with heart disease.
Yeah.
Another fun joke topic there. But yeah, I still have quite a bit of hope for the future, and that things are going to work out, and somehow we're going to get out of this pandemic, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
Why? But there's another thing that we truly, like, human beings are resilient. We are, there's any way you want to look at it, but we're like cockroaches, right?
Yeah.
We survive, and we've continued to survive. You look at history, and like, particularly European history, and you're like, people lived like this, and here we are today, and point being that we will find a way, but we have to make changes. We have to make changes.
Oh yeah.
So, like, across the board, and it's like, I understand that there's a lot of clashing going on between the left and the right, but the other thing, it's like, pole to pole, Alan Watts, you ever heard of this guy? I heard his audiobook the other day, and I was like, what? This guy.
I haven't read his book, but yeah. I
did the audiobook.
Yeah, me too.
If I read it, I'd be like, what? Yeah. But I recommend it.
Yeah, from what I understand, it's the right versus left is a little different in Canada.
I don't know.
Or is it similar? Do you?
There is a lot of parallels. Like right now, there's this truckers rally, liberation rally thing that's going on. I don't know. I look at it and I'm like, if your goal is to, like, trick over the politicians, dream on, man. The only people you're hurting are consumers, the people that you're apparently fighting for. You're harming them. If this thing has any effect, it'll affect the price of food, commodities, and therefore hurt Joe Blow, Joe Schmo kind of thing. So that's why. But the other thing is that the left and the right, like a pole, the North and the South Pole, they need each other. They're connected in some way. It's like Freud's narcissism of small differences. It's like, you guys are like Protestants and Catholics fighting over the same dude. Like, you guys believe the same thing. Anyways, but they need each other. And without the South Pole and the North Pole, you wouldn't have an Earth, you wouldn't have gravity, and the same thing's true about the political spectrum. If you didn't have the left, you didn't have the right, you would, I don't know what you'd have something completely different.
Yeah. I feel like there's definitely like some tribalism that goes too far, and it's like, no, there's definitely some like better ideas of both camps. It's and they do kind of, the parties do kind of tend to swap places, and kind of, it's interesting. Like I watched I was watching the show called Borgen. Have you heard of it? It's
Which
kind
one?
of like, have you heard of the show called Borgen?
Borgen, no.
It's a Danish show about, it's kind of like the Danish West Wing. It's about Danish government with a female prime minister. And it's just fascinating how many, they don't have a two-party system there. They probably have like 8 parties along a spectrum. and just like how the show is basically like how they all work together, and like
And do they work together?
They do work together. They do, and it's kind of fascinating.
What a dream!
It really is. It's like
Oregon.
Yeah, Borgen. Yeah, it's really good. It's on Netflix now, and I think they have. I don't know how anybody feels about. They have subtitles, and they have the dubbed over, which I mean is kind of corny, but essential if you're a parent and you're trying to do 8 billion things at the same time and watch. So, yeah. But yeah, it's interesting to see how all the parties work together. And of course, Denmark is 5 million people, I think. Very different from governing a nation of 330 million, but which is also fascinating. It's like, oh, wow, they could, I mean, like living in a small place, like you could just travel from one end to the other in a day, like real easily. Like, yeah.
But Denmark is about the size of Pennsylvania, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very small.
Yeah. I mean, that's still pretty so the fact that they are able to have such organization and equilibrium or whatever the word I'm looking for, like that they're able to have that it is impressive. And another really big piece that we all have to navigate, is the like, some of these people, they're anti-immigrants, and it's like, do you not understand how the economy, do you want to work as a farmer? Right? No, you probably don't. You want to work your whatever job that you have, your cushy job. Somebody has to do agriculture, and without that, the system falls apart. Like not everybody can be an influencer, right?
Yeah.
First of all, my God, if everybody was an influencer, I'd want to jump off the bridge. But like, somebody has to do work, and there's meaning in that work. Like our brains are wired in a way that, we think confirmation bias, right? We're always looking for it. But not everybody just sees the world that we do. And that's why we have to have, conversations like where it's like, listen to the other person, right? People like working with their hands.
It's I mean, we're in Arizona. It's a border state. There's a lot of, there's quite a bit of debate about immigrants here, and it's really hard to be anti-immigrant when, Arizona originally was a part of Mexico.
Right.
Yeah. 170 years ago, it was Mexico. It's right next door. And
its culture is heavily influenced by that past.
Yeah. It's, and a lot of our economy is is based in agriculture, and who do you think works in those?
Yeah.
Or like in those fields? Yeah, but it's, it's interesting though. I have a lot of friends that live closer to the border.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been the debate, of course, where over the wall, over the border wall there.
Have you heard Bill Burr's joke?
I'm sorry.
Have you heard Bill Burr's joke about that? About the wall. He's like, by the time we build it, we're going to be the people jumping over the other side of it.
They've already, like, the wall that they've built. Mm-hmm. First of all, it's huge. Like there's so many like eminent domain issues with land that like it's not whatever they wanted. If they wanted to complete a wall, it won't be completed for decades. And by the time it's completed, people are going to find a way around them, which they already are. So it doesn't really make, to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like,
you should see the border between me, because I'm in BC, and Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, man, this is crazy. But I was driving down Zero Ave, which is the meridian between, on the other side of this ditch is America. I'm driving down Zero Ave in Canada. And there's these two ladies on either side, and they're doing like a charcuterie board and wine. It was so cool. I took the picture and I talked to them, and they're like, yeah, we've known each other. We would always see each other because they would just cross the border. But, now we can't because of COVID, and we do this now. I was like, oh, that's so cool. Anyways, very vastly different to the other border, right? Between Mexico and the United States. Like,
yeah,
you wouldn't believe it. There's nothing.
Yeah. No, well, it's kind of interesting because there's actually quite a bit of, people that travel down to Mexico from the United States. Like, there's a lot. It's pretty much understood that like healthcare is cheaper down there, and like, there's all sorts of vacation spots and there's that acknowledgement, but then people want to come here and it's, oh, they're going to take our jobs, or, oh, they're going to get, and they're going to, gum up our healthcare system, and
they're going to bring good drugs.
Yeah. It's like, they're going to bring good drugs that are becoming more legal here.
I think, okay, honestly, and the war on drugs. This is
absolutely.
You're not fucking doing anything. You're wasting money and lives. Like, legalize it. Weed's legal here. So are mushrooms.
Are mushrooms legal there?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that. That's interesting.
Well, hey, I let me know. Just kidding. Anyways, but yeah, like, offer people resources. If you go to the casino, there's places all over if you want to quit. Like, if you have a problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Alcohol. I think alcohol is the worst of them all, to be completely honest, right? Because it's so socially acceptable, right? Like, at least some people, they have like, what is it? Oxytocin, the one that's super addictive.
Yeah.
Right? And the pharmaceutical companies, like, they give a shit. Right?
Yeah, I'm watching Dope Sick right now. So
did you ever see The Pharmacist?
I did not see that one.
Oh man.
I saw Crime of the Century on the docuseries on HBO. That was what I decided to watch when I was recovering from gallbladder removal surgery. and also received a little bit of drugs for that, and I was like, "Oh, this is great." Yeah.
Did they give you oxys?
They gave me. I'm not an expert. They gave me a few. Yeah, they gave me a few in that opioid kind of category, and I took them responsibly, I promise. Yeah. But I was like, oh wow, I really didn't realize like how much, like, how dishonest they were about marketing that. Because it's like, how does this happen? And it's just basically they're just telling people that, oh, you can't get addicted to these. you can't get addicted to these pills that are many times stronger than heroin and morphine, which are very addictive substances. Like, it doesn't.
More addictive than heroin?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. It's all.
And they knew that.
There's been so many problems with morphine, of course, historically, and then this product is. It was just on Dope Sick. They're just, the way they kind of snuck it in was they said, oh, well, we developed this product. It's off of this other product that we developed. And the thing is that you can only, it has like a 12-hour release. Mm-hmm. And that's how they got it approved. They're like, oh, you don't need to take it. It's supposed to work for 12 hours, but it doesn't work for 12 hours for a lot of people. So people end up taking more. They were telling doctors to prescribe like just insane amounts of pain pills.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I got a few pain pills and they were just like, take them if you need to, just a few. And it was fine. It was, you know, but yeah.
And you said, like, as you said, you know, I took them responsibly. But even people who do take them responsibly because their pain's so chronic.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you know, the good thing with a surgery like what you had, hopefully, is that it heals. But some people, they got, you know, like hit and whatever, and the pain doesn't go away, right? Like I got my wisdom teeth pulled out, not comparable at all. But they gave me T3s, and I'm like, no, I gotta resist it. Because I know me, I would probably be like, I'm taking them all, right? Yeah. And our body, like, that's the other thing about pharmacology. I mean, not to sound like a complete granola bar head, but our like pain is a messenger, right? Like it's our body telling us something. So we want to be careful when we mute it. Obviously, you know, there's exceptions, but like in our society, we try to treat the symptoms, not necessarily like the disease. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Like stress. Yeah. I could tell you about, I can write books about it. It's everywhere. And it's like, well, like, what do we do instead of dealing with the stress? We like blow our weekends away and get hammered or whatever. And it's like, we're actually just making ourselves more stressed out, or we stay up super late, don't get rest, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? But it's like, we look at like the small thing. We're looking at the trees, but not the forest.
Yeah.
To be a cliche.
Yeah. It's become a problem because I mean, part of the reason why oxycodone and like these Oxycontin and like really took off and popularity was there was this growth of pain management. It was like this focus of pain management in like the late 90s, and like all these pain centers like just popped up everywhere. And that was just like just giving people pills to mask the pain instead of actually like, okay, what else can we try? Because taking these things forever. So, am I are you still hearing me? I'm not sure if I'm coming through.
I'm going to translate, right? Sometimes that's what you have to do in Zoom call. So you're just saying that like you get addicted. This is something that you have to take forever because you're not treating the actual root of the problem.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that, I mean, this is supposed to kind of be a bridge.
Yes.
From like when you know, like it's supposed to be a bridge rather than a road. So it's like a road or like a never ending, like it's really supposed to have an ending point at when, you know, you're supposed to get better. And I mean, unfortunately, like that doesn't happen with certain injuries at this point. Like, and I mean, if you take these substances, like you kind of have to keep taking more and more to satisfy that need. Yep. It's
and it's so potent, right? Like it changes the chemistry of your brain.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how, like the other thing is that like the amount of information that we get in a day, like we get so much information. We get you know what? Actually, somebody broke it down for me. We get a lot of data. So just like stuff, it's not because information, this person was telling me, and I like this definition, is like actual things that we can, you know, are intelligible and stuff like that. And then through that, we have to now decipher what's fact and what is fictional, right? So much data, you know, we get these things. And that's why, like with these pain centers, people are like, oh, I get quick relief right now. Like, sure, I'll trust them. And now we got some people who it's like with pharmaceutical companies and these vaccines. You know, I'm set to get my third one tomorrow, but I can understand why people are super like unsure of, like, I get it. I can see where that's coming from. Right.
Yeah. Did you say you're getting your booster tomorrow?
Yeah. Number
cool.
3. Yeah. But it's like, do I need it? I don't know. Like some people are like it's no pressure, right? Like you do what you feel comfortable with, but just as long as you understand that, like, you know, Joe B or whatever, as long as they understand they don't have the vaccine, so they might have to make some choices on what activities they do. But I trust that they are adult enough to make those decisions. Like they're not going to make, we all take a Hippocratic oath. I choose to believe we all take a Hippocratic oath, you know, to try and do no harm. And those that do try and do harm probably had a lot of harm done to them when they were kids.
You know? Yeah. I think for me with the vaccines, I know that they've been developing this for a long time. There are lots of like collaboration. I mean, it is kind of unfortunate that the United States kind of got quite a bit more earlier than every other country. And then, I mean, we were on our third dose when 1% of Africa had even one dose.
Nigeria is under 5% totally vaccinated.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And there was a part of me that when I was deciding to get the booster, it was like, well, I mean, I wish Africa could get some shots if that's what they want. I mean, like, why don't we should be getting this. We should, I mean, kind of going back to children. I mean, my daughter is under 5. She probably won't be able to get vaccinated until later this spring. It's been pushed back. And it's like, yeah, I wish there's more of a focus on getting more of the world's population vaccinated and safe. So I do feel like that does make a difference, along with, you know, masking and social distancing and general stops to spread the disease and put a stop to different variants. But that's unfortunately not how it works. So
and you know what? That's kind of a good point, because we only really know our reality. And what I mean is that, like, in Canada and the United States, like, things are pretty good from my understanding, right? Like I say, I'm not the person to be commenting on this, but
yeah.
Anyways, but then in other places in the world, we have no idea. Like, it could be really bad. Like, I think Burma, it's like 40% back. You know what I mean? Like places in the world, we don't know what it's like to be there right now, but it could be way worse.
Some family in India, and and I mean, India is it's a developed country. It's like you know, and they're way behind. They're way behind in getting people vaccinated, and part of it is just, I mean, they didn't have they didn't negotiate as much as we did for vaccines. Which, I mean, it's difficult. Yeah, it's difficult to contend with.
Frustrating.
Yeah, but there's not a ton we can do about it as regular people. Like, it's unfortunately how the world works, where some, a lot of countries just really got more doses than others way earlier. And I mean, it's a shame that there are people here that just didn't even want to take it.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't, I like, I am for, it's not everything is a good fit for everybody. And I understand there's some hesitancy, but I also, you press on that hesitancy sometimes and it's like, and they're kind of going back to your point on, we get so much data and we get so much media thrown at us, and there's also not a big focus on which is quality and which is not. And there's a lot of bad information out there that people are getting thrown at them along with legitimate information, and they're not able to make the difference. And you have to have a little bit of sympathy for that, because that's, I mean, you basically have to have like a master's degree in media literacy to like sift through all this stuff all the time. So yeah, it stinks. That's that's it. It just it plain sucks.
But and there was something that you're saying there. There was a good point that you made just about all this. And it just to the fact that there's also the cult of personality, right? Like, oh man, Genevieve, she's really cool. She's a comedian. She does all this great stuff. And she's saying that, XYZ about this group. And then it's like, oh yeah, well, like I agree with that right? So then it's like you have some super influential people who are influential, obviously they've done something right if they're influential. You know what I mean? Like, even if an asshole becomes influential, it's like, well, what does that say about us, right? That we allowed anyways. So I identify with you, and then it's like your view is informed by whatever, and it's like, well, then that person must be right, and that person's always right. And it's like, okay, that can be a dangerous place, obviously, right? And that's kind of what has happened, is that we've had a lot of this blind allegiance to some information.
Yeah, I mean, people are, a lot of people are, very careful about what they say, and sometimes, but no one's right all the time.
No.
No one's right all the time. And I think you're right. I think there is this kind of tendency to label things as good or bad, and honestly, it's kind of it's very reductive. It's, some things are, I mean, it is harmful to just label something as bad without understanding, okay, no, this is bad because of this or that, or but or just casting off people or putting people on a pedestal and just saying, oh yeah, I think that does, you do have to take everything with a grain of salt.
Well, I mean, the other thing too, it's like, I don't know about you, but I have days that are great and I have days that are not great, and it's like yesterday I had a brutal headache. And I don't like taking my pain out on people, but like it's like lunchtime and kids are like always knocking on the door. Like, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Point being is that if I was in the public eye all the time and I was having a bad day, it'd be like, can you just fucking leave me alone? Like, you can see why people react the way that they do. And and I think that's kind of my goal, is just trying to understand where people are coming from, because people say things and it's like, okay, come on, like, how did you get there though? Right. And then it's like, how did you get to that understanding? And then you really pull it back and it's like, okay, well, what do you like? What do you, and then in the end, man, that we have more in common than we have in dissimilarities, right? It's like the old joke about, I have to send it to you, but it's like, there's so many divisions that it's like we're all just divided at some point. Like, You know, what do you want? Do you want the grand collective, or do you just want to be completely individuals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, let's find the peace here, because that's, I mean, you know, as here's speaking of mushrooms being free in Canada, it's like love is the answer, man.
Yeah, I think love and I think empathy also goes a long way. And it's, I mean, we do have a lot of people that are kind of operating in bad faith, and I think that makes it difficult to I mean, I don't think that they're necessarily bad people, but I do feel like it is hard to have a debate, quote,
Yes.
like with them, because it is, you know, like they're not operating from a place where they're actually really asking questions,
Yeah.
Yeah. And that does get exhausting. So
yeah. But when you know somebody's doing that, you're like, come on, man. Like, I'm all for conversation here, but let's just if like, I love sparring with people on the internet, just because it's like I ask questions, and then you know, blah 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 blah, and then they're like, because like, you know, like I say, I'm central, I lean left, and some of these right-wing bots, which they're not, like, that's not even what they believe, they're just trying to incite people.
yeah.
Like, they're literally, that's their goal. And then again, I ask myself, why are they doing that? Some of them, I truly do think that they could be, like, talk about conspiracy theorists, bots from wherever in the world that are trying to piss people off in the first world country. I'm telling you right now, I did one on the Uyghurs in China, and they're this group that are, you know, this horrible thing. And I put it on the internet, and bots were like messaging me, and they're like, you don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, man, you're not even writing in proper, I can't even read what you're saying. You're a bot. You know?
Yeah, I did a podcast, like, I think like 6 years ago. Do you know what Myers-Briggs is? Like the personality types? Like,
like a test.
yeah, I did. I did this podcast that was on different Myers-Briggs types, and I am an INTF, which is super rare for women.
Sorry.
Like,
say that one more time.
Personality type that I am is INTF.
Yeah, INTF. Oh,
I did a whole podcast. I asked about we talked about, like, my upbringing, and I'm like, I went to church a lot when I was a kid. I grew up religious. I'm
right.
Not religious now, and part of the reason why I'm not religious is when I was in Sunday school, I had Sunday school teachers that would tell me lies about other religions, like
Right.
and one of the things I was told was, like, about Mormons, Latter-day Saints, was they don't like Black people, and that they've done all these things to shut up Black people. And I'm like, well, okay. I felt like it was like, I mean, maybe they have, but I was like, there were all these things that were sold to me that weren't factual. They were like opinions that were sold. Like, okay.
Anecdotal stories, right? This is why this group is bad, because one time I went to an Italian pizza shop and the food was cold. That's why Southern Italians are bad. It's like, what the fuck kind of logic is that? Because you had one bad experience. Yeah.
Well, someone posted that podcast episode on some kind of forum, some kind of religious forum, and I got, like, about a year and a half after it came out, I got all these messages from, like, people that were like, here's why you're wrong about I'm Mormon, and here's why you're wrong. And I'm like, yeah, I know that's not my opinion. If you listen to my opinion, I was saying I didn't really like that I was being told like I was being kind of told stories all the time and having that presented as this is how they are. And I'm like, I don't know. Like I don't like that. I felt like there wasn't a lot of honesty. And yeah. So yeah. So people like were taking those views and putting them on me. And I'm like, it was yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, that's not what I said.
Yeah. That's heavy though, right? Like that's,
Yeah.
you know, like to feel responsible for your words, you know, that obviously that says that you're a caring person. You know what I mean? Like you're not just like smoke cigarettes and then like my daughter smokes cigarettes because of you. And you're like, well, good. Right. I don't know where the hell I come up with these examples, but you care, you know, words, ideas have consequences, words have meanings, and you understand that your words are meaningful. And imagine if more people thought that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, truly, imagine if people understood that sometimes their words, you know, why? Again, I'm not religious, but I know enough about Christianity to piss off Christians. Anyways, sorry. In the Bible, it says, in the beginning, there was the word. So if that's true, then we have to realize we got to be careful with their words, you know?
Yeah, I think it's tough. I mean, I think a lot of people kind of I mean, I don't know how old are you, by the way? I should
89. Think about this. Born 1989, October, November, I only found this out recently. November, the Great Wall came down.
Yeah,
So it's like, man, I was born at a very magical time in the world's history. I gotta believe in that stuff. Why not, right? How about you? So I'm 32. That's your question.
Okay, cool. I'm 40, and
oh right, you just had your birthday.
Yeah, but I mean, I grew up with social media didn't really become a thing until I was probably in my mid-20s. Yeah, and even being on the internet wasn't really a thing until I was in college. So for me, I mean, it was, and so we didn't grow up with this. It's interesting. Like I didn't grow up with this the internet culture as a child, and now all these people are growing up with it, and it's like you kind of learn how to like almost like monetize content for online. It's something that like is more inherent in society now. And but it's also like we've also had so many people kind of have to like live their lives out loud and like you know, like they're living their lives publicly. And you know, it's you know, like it's
I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a mean-spirited person. I really am not. I actually kindness is the fucking way, dude. The world needs more kindness. But I do find humor in that, like, this is just my opinion, and it's like fucking long. Like, you're like, that's 1,000 words. I'm not reading that, but I'll give you a heart because that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it's like everybody does have a voice, but that doesn't mean that everybody's gonna hear you. And that's okay, right? I'll hear you if I can.
I mean, I think there is kind of like pressure to basically like live your life out in the open. And but it's you don't have to. Yeah, you could be very
selective. It's a digital veil. But yeah, it's so real, and I think it's so real to people if they're not like educated in it. Like, you know, the things that people say on there they feel just as real as words anywhere. So why would they not hurt a little person's feelings? Like some kid playing online and they, I play Call of Duty because I'm still a child. And it's like some of the things people say on there, I'm like, hey man, like that's a kid, and like somebody's got to say it. Like, dude, you're talking to a kid right now. Like, leave him alone, right? Like, I get it. You probably work like a shitty job that you hate and you've given up all your hopes and dreams. But like, hey man, this 12-year-old who's playing an 18+ game, tisk tisk, leave the kid alone, man. And then of course the kid says all kinds of horrible stuff. And it's like, hey man, do your homework or whatever, right? That's what I mean. In life, we need some moderators. And with the internet, it's like, it's so encompassing. Mm-hmm. Whereas for you, it's just it's a weird, finger puppets on the wall, the cave wall, right? But for me, almost, it's like, oh man, I have a hard time stepping back from that. Like,
I think a lot of people do. I think most people do. Like, I mean, it's like, you don't, and there's also a lot of pressure to kind of keep up with the Joneses and I mean, there is, most people are showing the best sides of themselves on social media. Oh. They're showing that's what they're trying to do. And, they're showing, family photos where everyone's smiling and getting along and like, there's a lot of stuff that everyone goes through that's not going to make it online. And so people are like, oh, your life is so perfect. And I'm like, yeah, but
also my counter to that, please always be like, Rob, you're full of shit. But are people who post like really personal, sometimes people like them crying and it's very personal and it's like, listen, this is like, it's not about me or anything, but it's like, I feel uncomfortable seeing this because this really is not the approach. Like, here I am, you shouldn't do this, but it just does not feel like the appropriate place. Yeah. Like, that's something that you have a back and I don't know.
No,
I just find whenever people are crying on social media and stuff, like, depends, right? Not always. But sometimes it's like, fuck, man, like that's.
Well, it's a lot of, it's definitely like.
Seems fake.
I wouldn't say it seems fake.
Yeah. Well, it just seems like
some do. Sometimes it's
disingenuous.
And I've had friends that have had psychosis that
right.
that has come through on their social media, and like, it's just
that totally. And but and just to preface, that's kind of what I mean by like, that's not real, not as in like, but just something's off with this.
Yeah,
and I think that's a good point. Yes, psychosis.
And it's, I mean, it's kind of, on one hand, I mean, it is disturbing. It's, as somebody that's maybe like an acquaintance that sees a friend that is obviously hurting, it's like, oh, wow, I didn't know they were going through this. I hope they get help, what can I do to, like, help them? But then it's also just, I mean, it's also just like, everyone can see that. Everyone can see that. Not everyone's going to take it the same way. You're basically trauma dumping on non-professionals, who may have a variety of opinions so about you or your situation that are not informed. And and then you're having to deal with that on top of everything. And like, is
it art? Weird question though. Is it art?
I hate to admit how fascinated I am by some of these, but it is also just, it is exhausting. It really, it's exhausting mostly for the person who's posting that. I feel like but it's also hard for people that, I mean, the sad part is, I mean, there's not a really easy fix for a lot of mental health problems.
Oh, well.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
And as a mental health worker,
Yep.
I'm all of, as you probably guessed, I'm all about services and disservices. You know, everything has pros and cons, goods and bads, so on and so forth. But for some people, man, social media, it's like it's like it's a tool, and tools can be misused, and us not even be aware of it. Like, what? A hammer's not a weapon?
Well, it's also, I mean, I've been extremely lucky to have gone viral a few times on social media just over the years. And any time that you go viral, you're always being seen by a much wider audience than you're used to. And it is, no matter what it is for, and hopefully for something positive, you're going to receive, there's always going to be some weirdness. There's always somebody
it's a roller coaster.
Yeah. And it's, you do have to get used to that. You have to step back a bit and laugh. Hopefully you're not getting death threats. I've been lucky that I haven't gotten anything like that. I have a lot of friends who have, over very innocuous tweets.
Is that where you went viral? Was Twitter?
Yeah, mostly Twitter, a little bit of Instagram.
I love Instagram. Instagram's good.
Yeah, I haven't quite dipped a toe into TikTok yet. I'm a little intimidated. There's a lot of pointing at text and dancing. I know that's not all of it, but that's like, I see a lot of people like doing that, and I'm like, that's okay. Good.
You don't think that's your thing?
No, I don't. I don't.
Well, it's very quick.
Yeah.
It's what was that app way back in it's the same thing as that, only more user friendly.
It's basically the continuation of Vine. Yeah.
Thank you. Vine. That's it.
Yeah. I'm not a huge video person. I prefer writing. I like that a little better. But I have some friends that are doing some really neat stuff on there, and good for them. But yeah, but when you're going viral and people, you get more praise, and you build your audience, and like, that's very cool. But then you also, like, no matter what it is, someone is so mad. Someone is always so mad about it, and you're like, what?
Yeah, irate. But then again, I mean, just sometimes we got to think, like, if it's pretty neutral what you're putting out there, probably just a shit disturber. And you know what? Sometimes good art makes people feel that way. I just say it as, sweet, I made a person feel objectively. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
What was it then?
Oh, I mean, I think the last time I went viral was on Christmas Eve. I tweeted, I saw mommy kissing Pete Davidson. Like,
somebody else.
Yeah, I got about 150,000 likes on Twitter, and
150,000.
Yeah.
Okay. That's impressive. That's awesome.
I mean, just the right time. I tweeted on Christmas Eve, and it's the right time to make that joke, and people were like, people seem to enjoy it, but some people got really mad. People are mad because they don't want to hear about. There are a lot of reasons. They're like, I'm tired of hearing about Pete Davidson. I'm tired of people making fun of Pete Davidson. And I'm like, okay, I'm not. I'm like, I'm not. And there are people that are like, that made the same. There are people that make the same joke over and over again, like, oh, your mom better get tested, or whatever. Just that.
Yeah, it wasn't mean spirited. It was just silly. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm Pete
But
Davidson.
that's not
a nice
like,
guy, but
I'm sick of Pete. But like, I'm talking like, how dare you say that? I'm going to find out where you live. And you're like, whoa, okay, man. Like, find a hobby.
I didn't have that with that. I think the closest
But have you ever had this though?
I've had close. I've gone viral with a couple of political tweets. Like well,
that's the way to do it, Genevieve.
Well, like in September,
yeah.
Like this fall, the Texas passed a very draconian abortion law that was basically putting a bounty on women's and abortion providers' heads. It was like, if you could tattle on, if you knew somebody that was pregnant and considering an abortion, or you could tattle on them through this website, and then they would get a fine. And that was the thing. It was like, and so I had something about that against it. I'm not for it. and then I got all sorts of, I went viral on Twitter and Instagram on that. So I got, it was weird. And then on Facebook, I got all sorts of weird stuff from pro-life people. And I had to button things up. I had to learn my settings, my privacy settings on Instagram. And I had to mute the thread. Yeah.
It's a friend of yours that was doing this.
No, I had to mute the thread. Yeah.
Oh, mute the thread.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So I was like, I can't read anything more from pro-life people.
You want to know one that'll really piss them off? The reason why they're doing that is to keep impoverished people impoverished.
Exactly.
Don't lie.
Yeah.
That's what I can't stand about politicians, is they lie. Why are you really doing this? If you could tell me, then I might listen to you. But you know what the Rastafarians call politicians?
What?
Politricks. Politicians. Yeah.
Yeah.
I interviewed Bob. What's that?
Yeah, I basically, with a lot of it, I mean, what I specifically hate about the law, I think you're right. I mean, rich people are going to be able to get rich people of any political standing are able to get abortions. Like, it's not a problem. It's even if you have to travel a state over, it's different. Like it's not a problem to be able to afford the trip, be able to take off work.
There's solutions for those people, right? But it's obvious what it is.
It's, and they'll say, oh, we want fewer abortions. I'm like, well, that's what my tweet was about, was like, if you really want fewer abortions, you would make childcare more accessible. You would
free birth control.
Yeah. Like inexpensive birth control. You would make it more accessible. You would make maternal mortality rates. You would lower them because they're quite higher than you would expect in the richest country in the world. And it's very, like, it's, like, if that's really what you wanted, and that was, and then
it's like, if people really wanted to make changes, they could, right? The rich people. It's like plastic. Do you pay for plastic bags where you're at? I'm noticing we're at an hour and 20 minutes, and I know We said hour. So
Okay.
last
Yeah.
bit. In your state, do they charge you for plastic bags?
No, we actually we had rules. Arizona basically has when all of that kind of came up in the legislators, our legislator passed all sorts of ordinances like it's illegal to ban plastic bags, and
It's illegal to ban plastic bags.
in some cities. That's it never really took off here. Um yeah, it's there's been I was with an organization that was trying to encourage people to use more reusable bags, and I think people do more now. Like, I think it's just a good idea. People are trying to use less plastic bags, but there's been no like charging people for there's no bans,
Well,
nothing
the
serious.
reason I say that is because that's a fallacy, right? They charge you 25 cents for a plastic bag. They pay 25 cents for 1,000 of them, let's just say. And where do those proceeds go? Just right back to them. And then they buy more plastic bags in mass.
Yeah.
So come on, right? That's why I believe in questioning everything, and what do I know? So
yeah, it's basically, I mean, if they want to cut and for starters also, I mean, most of the pollution is not from consumers, it's from corporations. So it's
yeah. See, there you go again. It's like I think I'm the guy. Fuck. Like I'm gonna tie a plastic noose. I'm such a dangerous.
oh gosh, yeah.
That was a joke, everybody. I'm sorry. The last question for you, just because here I am. We're gonna keep it to an hour. I promise. Okay.
We're pretty
Zoom
close.
comedy. What, yeah, Zoom comedy here to stay or what? Like when everything's said and done.
I mean, I personally have really enjoyed it. For me as a mom, I've really I've enjoyed my mic. I've enjoyed doing virtual shows. Like, I mean, I feel like, I mean, there are some things that can go wrong, internet, tech stuff. I mean, but that stuff can go wrong in live shows too. I feel like there's good audiences. It's kind of nice that you can connect with people all over the world. I personally hope that there's some element to it, even as the pandemic subsides and, things get a little bit better. I don't think it's a substitute for live comedy. There's nothing quite like it, but I mean, I've enjoyed it. It's been a godsend for me over the last now 2 years. It's been nice. It's been like a great way to connect with people I haven't seen in a long time and hang out and it's been phenomenal. So I hope it continues. I hope people see the value in it and it stays in some form. So yeah. Whether it will or not, I do not know.
I'll keep coming because to me, it's like at the very least, it's a chance to connect, as you say, and it's a writer's room. So
yeah, I think it is hard. You do kind of have to adjust. You have to kind of adjust for each form. There's a different way you perform, and it is hard to kind of flip between the two, but it's not impossible. And more shows, more stages. That's good.
More time at the mic. Genevieve Rice, thank you so much. Thursday nights, the Little Bird showroom. If people want to see it live, what do they got to do?
Well, we have a sign up. We have a Facebook group, the Little Bird. Look for the Little Bird Showcase. If you're a comedian, you can always sign up and get 5 minutes. And it's just really easy. We just have a sign up sheet in our group. And if you want to come see it, you're always welcome to. So
there's just great comics on there, man.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people that have been like working out like TV sets and all sorts of stuff, and on our little Zoom mic. So that's been great.
It's a chance to connect, and the world needs more connection. Thank you so much. We'll have you on again soon.